Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pursuit Podcast. I'm your host, Grayson Garvin. Today's episode is my interview with Neal Freeman, or Coach Neal, as I affectionately call him, who is a real estate developer by trade, now CEO and president of Competitive Social Ventures, which is a distinct brand of three separate brands with first-in-class hospitality, unique entertainment, and uncompromising attention to detail and showmanship. Please listen for the significant highs and lows in Neal's life and the integrity and perseverance he's maintained along the way. Without further ado, let's get to it. Neal Freeman, welcome to the Pursuit Podcast this morning. I'm so excited that you've joined us.
Thank you, Grayson. Glad to be here, bro.
Absolutely. Well, Neal, that'll be the last time that I call you Neal Freeman. To our listeners today, he's Coach Neal to me because we go back a long time. I probably met Coach Neal when I was maybe 10 or 11-ish, but he started to become a prep coach of mine at 13 in baseball. And I went on and played high school baseball and went to school with his son and several of our other teammates. And, you know, I've had a lot of coaches in my life, and he's probably have been one of the most influential, not only from a baseball standpoint, but also from a life standpoint. And so I'm really excited for him to be able to tell his story because, you know, vocationally, he's had a lot of success, but he also has spent a ton of time pouring into, you know, young kids like me. And, you know, I'm a strong testament to the fact that, you know, again, what he's done has been a really big deal. So Coach Neal, again, thanks so much for coming on. I'm really excited for you to be able to tell your story.
Oh man, it's an honor. And I've had the privilege of coaching for 35 years. And after those 35 years, it's clear that you are still the best pitcher I've ever coached in those 35 years, and a great human being. But people need to know that you are a heck of a first baseman and a great hitter as well. So I know you don't get that credit, but I want people to know that you are not just a pitcher, but you could hit and field as well.
Well, thanks for saying that. I have been, you know, again, being left-handed, you know, a lot of people say that left-handed pitchers specifically are weird. I still remember a high school teammate of ours. I will not name him, but he called me a giraffe on roller skates. So I don't know how athletic I actually was, but
That's true. But they were known for giving grease, so that's a
that's
good
right.
surprise.
That's right. Well, you know, again, I really want to double click on a few things like of your past, and you be able to tell a little bit more of your story, specifically vocationally, you know, because you're in the development, or you come from a, you know, development commercial real estate background. You know, you had market success developing. I believe you've told me before, is it over 50 public shopping centers with Watkins?
Yeah, 52 public
Okay.
supermarkets. Yeah.
Yeah. So you developed what I believe in the Southeast is the best, you know, the best grocery store around, and kind of the anchor tenant of those shopping centers. And then, you know, you went on to do some other things that I'll be excited, you know, for you to share as well. But if you don't mind, you know, walk us through a little bit of your story and maybe camp out on a couple of the landing spots along the way to where we find you today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. So I grew up here in Atlanta. I went to Tucker High School, then on to Furman University and got my MBA at the University of Georgia. While I was there, I focused on real estate and just was kind of fascinated with real estate and real estate development. In life, it's, you know, life is about relationships, not only with your family, your friends, but your savior. And so for me, it was, I had a great mentor. And so I encouraged people to find mentors. And once you get the opportunity to mentor others, then I'd certainly encourage you to do that. And that's what it was. Coaching was one of the great things to do that. But I got out of University of Georgia, had a great mentor. He taught me the real estate business, taught me how to develop public supermarkets. And we went on to, I had the privilege of being part of 52 public supermarkets and took them from beginning to end. What I liked about it is I didn't realize it, but I always just like creating things. I like taking things from scratch and then molding it and then seeing the final product. And so I got to do that in that business. During the time of doing the public shopping centers, I was blessed with 3 athletic kids. I think my wife had the athletic genes there, probably there. And so I had a daughter and 2 daughters and I coached fast pitch softball. And of course, my son had coached baseball, and he was your buddy, both for the OC Stars and the Wesleyan team. And so I got to tell this one story because he tells it all the time. So we're in this this Wesleyan had never won a state championship. And the Stars have come up, and we're in the final game against Lovett. And they bring Philip in, bases loaded, nobody out, and he gets a pop up and a ground out double play. He gets out of the inning, and I'm thinking, man, he's going to be on the mound when they clinch the championship. And instead, they're warming up this big, tall lefty who just pitched about a 50 pitch complete game one hitter in the game one, known as Grayson Garvin, and he's warming up in the outfield. And anyway, so to this day, Philip was, even though he had that great outing to get out, he was so excited to see you warming up. He said, Dad, when I watched him warm up, I knew they wouldn't hit him because he was so jacked up. And he said, if I was a coach, I'd be out and put in Grayson. And I don't think they even fouled a ball off. And you won the state championship. And anyway, so I thought it was kind of cool that Philip actually would have pulled himself out just knowing that you were available. So anyway, I just want to tell that story. Um,
Well,
but anyway,
he's the best, and our teams were the best, and it was a fun way to the really fun way to end a high school career. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So congrats on that. And then of course you went on and had an amazing career at Vanderbilt, and just we're super proud of that, but been more proud of the person you became. So what the coaching allowed me to do was, when I started out, I'll tell you the thing that made a big difference in me. And that is when I started out coaching travel ball, it was a big change of a lot of ways I thought about the rest of my life. And it started out in not a positive way. So I was like, okay, travel ball, we're going to be competitive. I'm going to teach them the drills and how to get better. Sure enough, our team we started out pretty good. We didn't have you at the time that first year, but we were, I think, 46-23. So we won a plenty games, but all I thought about was winning and teaching baseball skills. And then at that time, Mark Rick was a coach of Georgia, and I was reading about his philosophy. And I everywhere I read, he didn't talk about winning at one time. All he talked about was mentoring and molding young men and women. And they said, how you know you're being a good coach? He said, ask me that 15, 20 years from now. How do they turn out as a father, as a businessman? And that's that I get it now. I get to see you, and then now I get to see, wow, even though, yeah, we won 5 national titles for our travel team and the state title, it's now that I see all of our teams are they're good men. And that's how, no, well, maybe I did a decent job there, but I focused on winning. But until I had a mentor and I read, and I let other people tell me, Neal, you're focusing too much on that. Focus on molding the men and discipline them and teaching them. And we had plenty of fun, but those are teams we were on. They didn't mind working. They worked hard. They stayed disciplined. If you remember, I had a rule at the OC Stars. If you don't have your hat on straight, shirts tucked in, yes, say yes sir, no sir, were docked an inning, and not one player all year was docked an inning. And it was just people like expectations, and then anyway, so that whole impacted me as to just trying to make a difference in people's lives. So I kept on coaching, and just still to this day, I love coaching. I miss coaching on the baseball field, but I've learned that in business, we're all coaches. All our team members, we have a chance to pour into them every day. And so that's what I've tried to do, outside my coaching, is just to every day pour into the team. Cause if you take care of your team, they're going to take care of your guests, and your guests are going to take care of your investors. But it starts by taking care of your team. And so anyway, I just want to let you know this. So travel balls to this day still kind of impacts the way I think. You want me to keep going on how where I
Well,
went from there?
no, I'd love to hop from there, but I want to, again, accentuate a couple things that you said. I think it's, if I could bottle up what you said, we could be done right now, because
Yes.
again, what you said is you kind of stepped in, thinking a little bit more about the results, and then you started to become more process oriented and thinking about the impact that can be had on each one of us. And I've seen here, I've, I've told more people that I can count the impact that you specifically had on my life. And I think that's so transferable to sports, to business, to family, to everything, that ultimately we had a ton of fun. We won a ton of games, but when those things aren't necessarily the focus or the desired outcome, it's ironic that those things actually do transpire
Yeah.
despite that. And I think that's important for people to understand that, again, if you really have to have a deeper purpose than just a specific outcome or money that you want to make or wins you want to have or anything like that. Otherwise, it falls pretty flat pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, at the perspective, I'm having to kind of teach my team now, in this new business, and I'll get into it a little bit. And that is the tendency, because everybody wants immediate results. So everybody focus on short term profit and loss. But the game is long term value creation. It's long term growth. And sometimes they don't work together, but you win the game by thinking long term. We try not to even talk about profit, right? We talk about creating the guest experience. I'm reading a book about, if I just finished and I highly recommend. It's hysterical. It's just like the stars, and it's the Savannah Bananas. It's Jesse Cole. I don't know if you read that. The fans first. It's like our playbook for my new company, and that is guests come first. And when we don't talk about, making money on the short end, we talk about what is the brand creation? What does that brand growth look like? What does that business growth look like long term? And with that becomes great value. So like you said, so the things that we're going to win, when we'll win big, kind of like we did with the stars and Lessian, but it comes from almost contrarian thinking. And that is just pouring into that long term growth. So is that,
Well, yeah, I think the delayed gratification mindset is so anti-human nature. And so many people do want it right now. And doing the industrious way of thinking and way of running a business or life or coaching or whatever, it's it's not desirable in the here and now, but in the end, in the long run, it pays massive dividends, literally and figuratively.
yeah.
So walk me through too. So going back to your story, I want you to kind of, and you don't have to dig super deep into Lake Point, but talk us through about how you kind of took your experience with prep sports into developing something that a lot of people said that you couldn't do, and you did, and then how that's kind of spun you into competitive social ventures today.
Yeah. So and I said that, and it's, until we talked about having this podcast, I didn't really connect all the dots, but God connects the dots. That's what's kind of interesting. So, I, uh, the travel ball actually led me to the next step in my life. And that was the creation of Lake Point Sports. And it was, as we're traveling around the country, if you remember, sometimes we'd find some great fields, sometimes they weren't great fields. Sometimes when there was great fields, there was no hotels, restaurants, or entertainment around it. And we just kind of like, I was in my head, well, one day I'm going to create a place that you can go to that's got the best in class athletic facilities, connected hotels, restaurants, and entertainment. And so Lake Point Sports was created in my head. Uh, but I was having a great time in real estate. We were doing fine, doing public shopping centers. Then the crash of 2008 hits. Our company has no money. Most everybody has no money. Nobody wants to do anything in real estate, but the real estate values went down so low that it seemed like a great time to buy land at a great price. So I, we, anyway, so we put together 1,700 acres on I-75, 3 miles of frontage up in Northwest Georgia. And, so we bought the land as a land play initially. And my partner said, well, what are we going to do with this? What in the world is growing in this economy? And I go, I can tell you what's growing is this travel sports, because every tournament we go to is completely full, irrespective of the economy. And I said, if you put this in the middle of this inexpensive land, then you're going to have some, because it will happen. It's, in spite of it, of the economy. And sure enough, we put it in there, and Perfect Game had 300 teams the very first week we're in there. And now 7, 8 years later, 2.2 million visitors show up a year
I
there.
mean, it's the mecca for prep sports, and it may be in the entire country, but definitely on, the eastern part of the United States without a doubt.
Yeah. And it's very rewarding that, we didn't do it to create pro athletes, but we've had at least 30 MLB draft, early draftees would have played the year before Lake Point. So that's kind of cool. I've also seen that a lot in basketball now, volleyball.
For sure.
Um, but we didn't do it for create pro athletes. What we did do is to give kids a chance to showcase their sports skills to get a college education. Because if you can get a college education, your chance of avoiding poverty is like goes up by 80, 90%. So that was, and you become not necessarily pro players, you become doctors, real estate developers, nurses, attorneys, et cetera. So that was kind of the thing. And to this day, 1,000 kids a year get scholarships because they expose their skills at Lake Point. So it's super rewarding aspect of that.
That's huge. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Walk me through too, before we hop into again what you're doing now, and I want everybody to be able to hear that is I know that there before you were creating Lake Pointer, as you were kind of walking through that, and you spoke to it a little bit. Walk me through how did you deal with the tension of because there were a lot of people that said that you couldn't do that, or that that was not smart, or that again this isn't going to amount to anything. And to your point, it's amounted to everything and more that you set out for it to. So it's easy again to look at it now and be like, oh, that must have been a slam dunk no brainer, but that's far from the case. So walk us through a little bit of that tension of how it feels on the forefront of doing something like that.
Well, first of all, disclaimer: I am a visionary, which is a blessing, but it's also a curse. In that, once you get something in your head, you can see. Like I immediately could see what the fields were like, what food we were cooking, where people were parking, uh, and so. But that's a curse, in that until it gets done, it's still in your head. Um, but the key to being a visionary, the key to being a real estate developer is number one, you got to start. You got to believe in the vision. You got to believe that these people are going to enjoy. It's going to be a great experience. And then the second thing, most important, is you got to finish. So you just dive in, and you got one. My attitude in life: you got one life. I, if you don't take risk, you're not going for it. You can't be reckless. So I've tried not to be reckless. Um, But sometimes when you're a visionary, you run that fine line of doing it, and then people, you just can't let people say no. We got turned down by 280 lenders before we found a lender that
Wow.
would do it. Yeah, so you just got to be committed. I'm going to do this, and we're going to get there. I tell people it's like running a 440 relay. Excuse me, 440 high hurdles. You got to start and you got to finish, but there's hurdles there. But in real estate development, the hurdles aren't the same size. They're spaced part differently, and some of them are stealth, and you run right into them. Uh, some you go under, some you go over, you go around. But the goal is to try to finish, and that's kind of been the way I've done on all 52 public shopping centers. The way we did it with Lake Point. Uh, we will find someone who will lend the money to us. We will move 2 million cubic yards of dirt, even though it's on a mountain. Why are you doing it at a mountain? Why here? So we just kept the dream, and went forward, and to this, and the end result is people are getting to enjoy it. Um, was there some collateral damage along the way? Certainly. Um, but we got it done. And one of the things that came out of that is kind of led me to my next stage, and that we started out with putting great fields together, which we did. That generated traffic to then create restaurants and hotel demand, which then finally the last part was entertainment. So I always knew with the stars, and when we went to a tournament, we always try to work in some fun. And so I knew it'd be great to have a laser tag, bowling, mini golf, rock climbing, arcades. So Lake Point Station was created only by that demand. I'd never done it before. And I just, again, well, let's do it. So I found someone who had created it before. And next thing I know, I'm in the family entertainment business. Never been in it before. But when I did it, and I went there and I watched people climbing, I watched people high fiving after bowling, I watched them toast a beer at my pizza restaurant, and enjoy some yogurt afterwards, or playing arcades or mini golf or laser tag or gym money. And it was so rewarding to do that business to consumer. I'd always been building buildings and getting a red check, and it was a nice living, but it wasn't as rewarding as the customer having that experience. And I said, so it was it turned into, I was about to turn 60, and I knew I didn't want to do any more public, nothing against public. It was a wonderful life, but I would need to move on. I knew this was $100 million project at Lake Point. That's going to be tough to replicate that. But I said, well, I didn't want to end my business career at 60. I got too much energy and I just want to give back to people. And I said, what do I want to do? So I took a pause to do something I wish I'd have done at your age, Grace. And I recommend to all your viewers that are not as old as me, and even my age, that you should do it. And that's to take pause to come up with a personal mission statement. Here I'm at 60 years old and I didn't have a personal mission statement. And I fit so I do it. It took me some time, but I came up with it was to be to bring joy to others, which I kind of done that, and we're certainly we're trained at Wesleyan the joy and banner and all that stuff, but to really bring happiness to others. But I want to do it in a way that through creating gathering places where families can come together, but it had to include sports. I'm just too much of a sports geek that somehow sports had to be in the equation. So I said, well, who's put together gathering places where sports is involved? And I said, gosh, Top Golf. So I kind of looked at Top Golf and I just said, what if Top Golf came inside with simulators and a little putting course? Anyway, all that got in my head. And the next thing you know, the brand of Fairway Social was bouncing in my head. But I didn't have a place. It was just bouncing in my head. And then, like I said before, it's all about relationships. I had a friend who was actually one of my investors at Lake One, a partner in the deal. And he said, he came to me and actually it had nothing to do with Fairway Social. He just said, I know that you've done a lot of real estate development. Can you help me with this hotel? I said, I've done about everything, but I haven't done hotels. I can't really help. He said, I got the hotel figured out. What I need help on is I got a 9,000 square foot basement. You're creative. Come up with something fun. And I said, well, let me see the design of your hotel. And he said, it was a beautiful neoclassic, could have been built 100 years ago hotel right in downtown Alpharetta. And I said, man, 100 years ago, speakeasies were the big thing. They're still popular today. I said, Alpharetta has a need for live music. You ought to do a 1920s fake name, fake pass to get in. I said, and I just did, and this back in the 20s, they had the small ball bowling called duck pin bowling. I said, I just did it at Lake Point Station, easiest money you can make. And I said, so I laid him the whole plan. And he said, oh, this is great. He goes, why don't you do it? And for some reason, at 60 years old, I said, yes. And, but I didn't do it without asking my wife. So you'll love this story. So, because Beth. So I go in, I go, so honey, I know that we've done 50,000 square foot public shopping centers at Main and Main, very, very prevalent, very easy to see. I'm thinking about leasing 9,000 square feet in a basement with a fake name and a passcode to get in. What do you think? And she just said 3 words. She said, it's official. I go, what do you mean it's official? That you've lost your mind. And so I said, does that mean you don't want to do it? She goes, at our age, what the heck? Let's go for it. So next thing you know, I at 60 now, at this point now, and once we've opened it a couple of years later, at 62 years old, I was running a speakeasy. And if you don't think God's got a sense of humor, the fact that I'm running a speakeasy at 62 is pretty funny to me. But
I love it.
It's been a great success. But what happened about that was partner who had the hotel said, oh man, that came together quickly. Can you help me over at this mixed use I've got? I've got this 5,000 square foot space that could be expanded to 13,000 square feet. Uh, and I don't really know what to do with it. And I said, well, I've had this, remember, I told you earlier, I had this idea bouncing in my head about what if Top Golf came inside? And I said, why don't we do a Fairway Social? Put these simulators here, put an outdoor putting course. And the next thing you know, in downtown Alpharetta, Fairway Social was born, just 1 block away from Roaring Social, which we ended up being the name of the. And so all of a sudden, we just had these 2 brands. They were just going to be 2 one-offs. We were just going to laugh about it, but they became so popular so quickly. Everybody kept coming and goes, is this a franchise? You need to bring it to Nashville. You need to bring it to Charlotte, Birmingham. And I go, well, maybe we got some here. And so we actually consolidated them to a holding company called Competitive Social Ventures. And we just keep getting blessed. And now we're already opened up a second Fairway Social down south of Atlanta in a community called Trillith, which is mixed use that Dan Cathy of Chick-fil-A built. So I think if you don't mind, I'd love to tell this story because again, it's all about relationships. Keep in mind, I did 52 Publix. 50 out of those, 4 of those had Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A owned by Dan Cathy. I also knew Dan a little bit through ministry. Uh, so anyway, but I knew Dan Cathy also lived in an hour and a half from Alpharetta. And so I'm down at the basement of the hotel at my speakeasy. And one of my jobs, they don't give me many jobs because I'm not that talented in the restaurant and speakeasy business. They said, you can go pump up the band. So I'm in the green room pumping up the band. And that night we have it's a big band, it's 17-piece big band with kind of a Frank Sinatra kind of singer called Joe Granson. Anyway, so I'm back there pumping everybody up. And, and I run into Dan Cathy. I go, Dan Cathy, what are you doing in my basement an hour and a half from your house? He says, I'm playing my trumpet in the back row of this big band. And I'm thinking, well, if you're a billionaire, you can do whatever you want to do. And, and Dan's a dear friend and a great person. So I watched him play his trumpet. And when he was done, he goes, man, I love this roaring social. I love your fairway social. You need to put one of these in Trillith. And I said, I've read all about success, but I haven't seen it. He said, well, come down and do it. And within 10 days, I had a lease at Trillith. So the point of all that is, it's just about relationships and doing the right thing in business and just doing what you say you're going to do. And business recycles in just the strangest ways. That is how we ended up down in Trillith with our second fairway. Uh, and then you wanting me to get into pickleball, or you want to stop there and you want to
Well, no,
interject?
I mean, I think that that's so good. Let me stop there for just a brief second, because I think, again, you're pointing to this, now you have your personal mission statement, you have your purpose of bringing joy to others. You're treating people right along the way. Again, the Dan Cathy interaction, I had a chaplain in pro ball with Tampa, and he said that there aren't coincidences, there are God incidences. And that's kind of a funny thing, but it seems just at face value that interaction with Dan in the green room of Roaring Social in Alpharetta could have been a God incidence in getting you guys to trill it. And
Yeah.
as that continues to grow, it's just cool to see. So yeah, so obviously those two concepts, Fairway Social, Roaring Social, are doing well. Talk us now through the third iteration in competitive social ventures, which is Pickling Social.
Yeah. So again, it was not part of some master plan initially. It's just the way, just like you said, the God instances that happen. So I'm at Lake Point, about 6 year in there, and by then we had done this 175,000 square foot indoor facility, which has 12 basketball courts that convert to 24 volleyball. And one day, a group of old people by my age said, we're going to strike one of the basketball courts and we're going to play pickleball. You want to join us? I said, you're going to play what? He said, we're going to play pickleball. Look, I've never heard of what you're playing. I said, but I need the exercise and I've got my stuff with me. So thanks for inviting me. So I played, and in 5 minutes, I learned the game. And in 10 minutes, like everybody, I got hooked. And, but so we kept playing, but it's still mostly older people. And then all of a sudden, your buddy Philip and all his buddies came up and said that they were playing. They started playing, they're playing pickleball. And I'm thinking, you guys are playing pickleball? And so, because I said, if y'all are playing pickleball, this thing might be a business now because, y'all are like the perfect demographic. So the more I got into it, I said, it wasn't just 30-year-olds, it was 30 through, it's now people are 8 years old playing it all the way up to 80 and everything in between. So when I first started thinking about doing something turning it into an entertainment concept, there were only 4 million people playing pickleball in America. Just 3 years later, it's 40 million people. So it's 10x growth in 3 years. So, and people act like I'm some genius for starting this pickle and social with this growth, but I had no idea it was going to grow like that. I mean, I'm certainly not that smart at visualizing, but anyways, but I knew I wanted to do the pickle social. So, anyway, so I said, who's done to pickleball what Top Golf's done to golf? And so it was a group called Chicken and Pickle. So I called them up. Hey, I'd like to be your franchisee on the East Coast. They said they're not selling franchises. So by then I already had a team that could run entertainment. So I took my team out to Kansas City and said, can we do it better? And to a person they thought they could. And Pick on Social was formed. And we just opened 10 days ago in Gwinnett with the first Pick on Social. I'd love for people to come out and we're going to grow it as much as we can. It's, it's exciting. It's fun, but it's not just pickleball. It's not a pickle. We're not only not doing a pickleball center only. We've got 12 to 14 to 16 courts at all our venues. But I tell people we're creating a tailgate party that happens to have pickleball courts in the middle of it because we're going to have massive American Cornhole League tournaments and clinics. We are going to have the same live music we got in our speakeasy will be out there for outdoor concerts. We're going to have 20 other different kind of tailgate games that's available, not just ping pong. We found things called Jasmine, which is pickleball meets badminton. We found paddle smash, which is pickleball meets spike ball. So it's just a party every night. And by the way, but if you really want to get good at pickleball, we've got a head pro, we got ladders, leagues, clinics, tournaments. So it's just all in one, wrapped into one called Pick on Social. But it all gets back to having great food and beverage. And so wherever we go, that will be that. And everything we do is about the guest experience, like I talked about with the Savannah Bananas. Can you believe they just sold out in 15 minutes the Houston Minute Maid Park, whenever, in 15 minutes.
Crazy.
And they were only selling 300
Crazy.
tickets when they first started doing that in Savannah.
I know it's crazy. And to your point, again, it's the difference between the process or the outcome orientation. And it's the things, if you can be laser focused on the things that matter and making people feel loved and cared for and supported and celebrated, that, it pays you back tenfold. And it doesn't have to be about that, but it's funny that that's ultimately what actually
Yeah.
happens.
So I mean, so people said, what's your greatest satisfaction? I said, wait, they go, the speakeasy's been so popular. They go, oh man, you must be making a lot of money. I said, we don't even think about it. My return on investment, I mean, I can give you a finite number, but it really is priceless because I can go in and in 5 minutes, just sit on the back corner and watch in 5 minutes, people kiss, hug, dance, high five, toast, fist pump, and celebrate life. And that is priceless. You can't put a number on that one. So,
Yeah,
and it sounds
absolutely.
corny, but
100%.
it truly is. And it's made me feel 35 years old again. Because I can't wait to go and just watch people enjoying life again. But it gets back to my mission statement, bringing joy to life. And it's like, wow, it's happening. And I feel
Yeah.
super blessed for that.
No, that's awesome, man. That's actually, you kind of answered one of my next questions, which was going to be, how do you define success today? But it sounds like, again, you were intentional in creating that mission statement to define what success means to you. And ironically, again, it's like you've been very successful by any standards, but again, the standard is to you is far more interpersonal and relational than it is about anything else. And you're running a business where investors are invested, they want to make money, but you're able to scratch that itch while also having the deeper purposeful itch of bringing people joy.
Yeah, well, we ask every new employee of Competitive Social Ventures to memorize our business mantra, and it's one sentence, and it comes from Walt Disney, and that is create the experience and the success will follow. I don't tell them how to define success. Some it may be the tips they get. It truly is money just to pay rent. But some from myself, it's to see the joy in people. And so everybody can define the success on the way, but it all starts with creating that experience, letting people just, just enjoy life. But sometimes just getting a haven from some of the beat down. We all have something going on, either health, or family issues or business issues. Everybody's got a problem of some type. And if they say they don't, that's probably their problem. They're in denial. But so
Yeah.
one of the fun things at my speakeasy is you check in at the top, you get you're here to pick up your tailoring and, and you get you get a little tailoring ticket. You go downstairs, the tailor shop's closed and you got to go in through a little phone to call into the factory. We let you in. But when you're at the top and you're checking in, I just feels like people are dropping their troubles at the top of those stairs. And when they go in that stair down the bottom of those stairs for 3 hours, listening to that music, enjoying their friends, they have a haven to, at least for 3 hours to get away from whatever's bothering them. And that is a great, for me, that's another definition of success for me. It's just to know that people get at least a safe haven to get away from some issues.
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. So stepping back a little bit too, I love asking this question because you've had a ton of life experience. Um, Sitting here now, what is one thing that you wish that Neal Freeman, coming out of the Terry College of Business, you wish that Neal Freeman would have known that you do know now that would have saved you a lot of headache and heartache along the way?
Um, to just make sure that you smell the roses along the way, that you spend time with the people that matter. Um, it's a balance. You know, maybe not grind quite as much. Um, you know, maybe that report doesn't have to be as perfect. Maybe those the returns on, but what I always did try to do, and I don't think I missed many practices for the stars. I everybody knew at 3 o'clock that I was leaving and I was going to practice, and you just set boundaries. And I think I wish I'd have known that right out of Terry. I did learn it over time, but I think right, if I'd have known it at an earlier age. And so I would encourage younger ones to just carve out that time to make sure with the things that are important for me. That was the family. My family was the OC Stars as well as my own family, and I just made sure we carved out time for that. I wish I'd have done that much earlier in my life. So I think that's to answer your question. That's what I would have done was
No, that's huge. Well, again, it is always a fine line, right? It's like success and growth, whatever that looks like, does not happen in comfort. And so we have to be uncomfortable in some ways, being willing to quote grind, but it's also for those that do have a propensity to dig into that. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle where it's like it probably doesn't require maybe as much as we think. But again, you do have to find time to work hard, but also to find time to build the relationship, spend time with the people that matter
yeah.
most. Because at the end of the day, it's the relationships into the business again that you're in. It's the relationships and the experiences that we remember. It's funny, thinking back to Stars and Wesleyan and all of these things, like we had, like I said, material success. But the things that I think about are not the wins and losses. It's the experiences. It's the putt putt matches and the lock ins and the crazy travel that we did. It's like those are the things that I remember that I talk to former teammates about. It's not about, hey, do you remember this game when I struck out this many people or hit this home run? It's like that couldn't be farther from my mind. It's all about the relationships and the
Yeah,
experiences that we had.
people
So,
say, "Oh man, tell me about those 5 national championships we won." And all I could think about is the stink bomb that Connor Wynn put in the Cooperstown dorm one night, or
yep.
some the Ricky Dover spike with the fart machine in, in the middle of Cooperstown, or just I don't know. Just being this. Those are the things. Even though we won all the titles, it is outside the lines. But it's a story that I was just gonna to emphasize, if I could go back a little bit on on
Please.
on committing, and is that I wanted people to know how important my commitment to the coaching and to my family was. And so I had Walgreens that had came to me and they said, "Wow, we really like what you've done for Publix. We'd like you to develop about 30 Walgreens here in the southeast." And I said, "Well, man, I'm honored. Thank you for that. That's a privilege." I said, "But I'm in the middle of coaching. I'm in the middle of my family, and so if you're in town and you need to see me, and I've got a game or I've got an event for my family, you just need to know I'm going to go to that, and I'm not going to be able to meet with you. Are we okay with that? If not, then I'm not your guy." And they said, "We're not okay with that." And I didn't get the deal. I would have made a boatload of money and I would have had a finite return in my bank account. But what I had with the Stars and Wesleyan, is absolutely priceless. And to this day, I tell people that you can't even compare what I would have made at Walgreens for the time we had. It was so similar, like you said, those bus rides, I mean, just that team was still to this day makes me laugh to think about it.
We had fun. But it also too, to your point is, presence matters because, time is our greatest asset. And it's, where we spend our time. I think it means a lot to people when you show up.
Yeah.
And, I can remember a handful of, dads and coaches that were around all the time, whether that be prep sports, OC Stars, Wesleyan, and you were definitely one of those people. But as you're alluding to, it required a lot of intentionality and saying no to some things that were shiny, for lack of a better term. But to say now, again, to say that those things were priceless is, I think it's important for people to hear as
So
well.
I had a really great administrative assistant back when people had those. And she was firm. And I told her, and her name was Zarita. I said, Zarita, 3 o'clock. You let me know when it's 3 o'clock. So I'm with it. I was finishing a deal with McDonald's, and it was a deal we really needed. It was an important contract. We're getting right to the closing moments, and the door's closed. All of a sudden, Zarita comes to the door. She slams her fist on the desk in front of these people she's never had before. It's 3 o'clock. This meeting is over. And guess what? The meeting was over. They agreed quickly to what I needed, and I made practice.
Boom. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So yeah, you gotta tell people what you need, right?
So,
That's awesome. Well, this has been so, I just appreciate you telling your story and so many nuggets of wisdom and so much, again, it may not have felt like it at every moment, but just so much intentionality along the way. And, again, yes, the business success has been very material by any stretch of the imagination. But again, the lives that you have touched, the lives you continue to touch with what you're doing is is really special. So I want to say on behalf of all of those lives that you've touched, thank you for just for making a difference. It means a lot to me and everybody else.
well, just to see how wonderful you've turned out. I mean, again, it's priceless. You're like another son, and although you got amazing parents, I still claim you as a second father. Um, but it's just very rewarding. I would like to leave you with what drove the stars, what drove Wesley, and what drives the CSV, and that's the core values. We're one team. We grow together. We do the right thing, but we have fun, and that's the way I want to end my career. And I would encourage that for all your listeners is that you can have it all. You can grow, you can make money, but you can influence, but you can still have fun. But don't forget, don't,
I
oh,
love it. I love it. I love it. That's nuggets of wisdom right there. So as a final question for us to end, again, this is not a financial podcast, but I am a finance
yeah.
guy. So I like to end with one fun finance question. If you can think back to your young formative years, what's the first thing that you remember saving for when you were a kid?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Well, my father actually made me to do this. This was interesting. I was late. I'm not normally late, but I must have been late as a fourth grader. I was late for something. Uh, and the school was not happy about that. My father said, "You're not gonna be late again." We lived in this at that time. We lived on like South Georgia. We had a bunch of pecans. He said, "You're gonna go out and pick pecans, and you're gonna take them to market because you're gonna save money to buy a watch." So I was a $10 watch, a Timex watch, and I thought, no problem. I'm fine with picking up these pecans. It won't take me one afternoon. I'll get it done. So I picked up pecans for like a whole, afternoon. And I was like, turned it to market. It was like 50 cents. I went, oh my goodness. So it took me like 3 months of picking up pecans to make $10. And that was actually the first thing I ever saved for was a Timex watch.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, again, thanks for being on today. We really appreciate it. And for our listeners, remember that fear is the enemy. Real focus, hard work, and perseverance is what it takes to win. And until next time, this is The Pursuit.